today so far? Raise your hand. Whenever you dream big, guess what happens? You fall. But I don't ever want you. Yeah, when you dream big, you do fall. Because the first step is never the best step. Look at the baby. When the baby steps, what's the first thing that happens to the baby? It falls. And then it gets back up. The baby doesn't sit down and say, this walking thing is proving to be too difficult, I give up. No.
All the things I was afraid of and worried about, I didn't need to be worried about. Everything works out in its own way. All the things that I thought were so scary, all the things that were going wrong, turned out to be okay in the end. And the thing that I was most upset about was the opportunities I let pass me by. That was the most annoying thing to me. And at the time I was reflecting on this quotation. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most.
Never give up. You're amazing. I need 7 dreamers to come and join me on stage. 7 dreamers. Who are the 7 people that came up earlier on? Come and join me. Come and join me. Don't lie. Come on.
This is the kingdom of Songhai, the city of Agadir in the kingdom of Songhai, which today would be Niger. This city at its height in the 16th century had 70,000 people living there. How many people lived in London in the 16th century? Anyone know? 20,000. So talking about a city that was almost 4 times the size of London. To give you perspective, because I know sometimes if you don't know this history, it sounds crazy. Like, how could that possibly happen? Africans building bigger cities than Europeans. I've got a headache and I need to go and figure this out. Right? London 150 years ago was the biggest city in the world. Is London anywhere near the biggest city in the world today? Probably not even the top 10, right? That's how quickly history changes. There's probably about 10 cities in China bigger than London.
You're amazing. Dream big. Oh yeah. Act now. Never give up. Balloons don't float because of their color. Balloons float because of their content. If you keep seeing yourself as a color, that's all you're gonna ever be. Anything associated with that color is what you're always gonna manifest. But when you see yourself as a spiritual being created for greatness, that's what's going to happen for you. Give up. You're amazing. Give us a big massive round of applause.
Like a great event, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a really exciting event. I was actually there, but I was working. I was duty managing, which infuriatingly meant I had to sit in the foyer for the entire event. But I did see Akala, who we had a short clip of in that VT there. He was speaking to a load of people outside in the foyer who were really interested in what he was saying about black history and Asian history in... I think it was sort of the most effective bits of his talk from what people were saying afterwards were the bits where he was talking about sort of the early medieval history, how it's been whitewashed. In Europe, we think of ourselves as so much more advanced than any other culture, and all these East and West African countries, Mali in particular, he was talking about, that were so much more advanced than Europe in the 13, 14, 1500s until the Europeans started to colonise Africa. And it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, that definitely does sound interesting. I wish I'd been there now.
Yes. The singing and stuff that one of the guys was doing that was also in that video looked great fun, and getting all the people up on stage. Yeah. And the motivational speakers aspect of it was interesting as well. It was good to hear such a broad range of speakers at a single event, because you had just sort of your Black History stuff, which you'd expect in a Black History Month event, but then you also had successful alumni. Tim Pemberton, I think his name is, works at the BBC as one of their directors now, and he's had a great career, and he was saying how much being at Lancaster has helped him and how he's kept in touch with Lancaster, which was also great to hear.
Okay, now we are heading up to Halloween, and we've heard of concerns over costumes worn by students that could potentially cause offence to some people. So we've taken a few sample images and decided to ask students how they felt. So here's Jack Hill with questions on the spine.
Out of these pictures, I'll let you have a look through them. Which ones do you think could possibly be offensive to some groups of people?
Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and back to number 1. Okay.
Number 3.
Yeah, I'd say number 3 was the most offensive.
Number 3.
Closely followed by number 4.
The pumpkin.
It depends. It depends what you're offended by. Like, some people don't like Halloween. Some people don't like women's flesh. Like, it does depend what you're offended by.
It does. It's number 3.
Yeah, we're saying number 3. Yeah.
1, 2 more than 1, 3. Definitely 3. Not 4. Yeah.
Possibly.
5.
3 definitely.
Yep.
1 and 2 not so much. 4 definitely not. And 5 no. Yeah, I think I'd go also with with 3.
I don't know, I'd probably say 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, don't know.
Okay.
Don't know why, but there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Number 5. That's it. I mean, this one like stands out anyway.
These maybe?
Number 5.
Yeah.
So you think that one's the most offensive that you'd think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of ethnicity, if you are from that ethnic group specifically, but I don't think women from that ethnic group wear those kind of things normally, so might be regarded as offensive. Not by me specifically, but
I don't think number 1 could be offensive, really. I don't think number 2 could be offensive, but I did watch a BuzzFeed video about nurses trying on these outfits.
Okay.
And some of them did find it slightly offensive. I don't really think number 3 could be offensive. Number 4 isn't offensive. Yeah.
So out of those ones, which ones do you think could possibly be most offensive?
I think
Which number?
number 5,
Number 5.
possibly number 2, and I don't think any of the others are.
There's clearly 3 examples of the female body exploitation here. As you can see, there's like really sexy costumes. You're supposed to be a doctor, that is supposed to be an Indian girl or whatever, and this is, I don't know what that is, but they try to look really like exposing female bodies, which is, in my opinion, really bad, because you're supposed to dress up to scare people, not to like attract people. I don't know. But it's, I don't know, I think it's offensive to women because it's like you're taking women as something to like show everything except like what you want to wear, whatever. This, what is this? It's like a prisoner or something. Or what is it? Can you tell me? Well, I think if this is like a prisoner or someone from, I don't know what that is. What is this?
It's a dude.
It's a dude. Maybe it's like using the idea of like mental health problems and making like fun of them by wanting to wear costumes to be someone from an asylum or prison. And then I don't know what's wrong with this, to be honest. What do you think is wrong with this?
I'd choose that one then.
Yeah, I choose this one. I don't know, it's just a pumpkin and it's funny and it's happy, innit? I don't know. But yeah, mainly these 3, I guess, is the typical problem of using female costumes to just another excuse to like dress up like that in public spaces. It's not nice. You're like exploiting the female body, I guess. I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Halloween is about having fun and dressing as you like, so I don't think there is nothing wrong with it.
I guess it could be seen as objectifying women. I guess that's appropriating.
Exaggerating. But how do you use that to like...
I guess it's all in good heart. It's
They're
all in
not
good
scary,
heart.
people who will have...
And this is all everyone's choices. Anyone
Yeah.
can do what they want.
exactly,
And I reckon they look buff, so it's all right, man.
Yeah.
We are now joined by Tom Stapleton, Lucy Vice President for Union Development. Hello, Tom.
Hi, you alright?
Yeah, so we've just got a couple of questions about this new policy regarding the Halloween costumes. So how will the Sugar House control what's kind of regarded as offensive and what's not offensive?
Yeah. It's quite a difficult one to navigate, really. It's not about how the Sugar House are going to control that. We're more just spreading the message about our students kind of adopting a fun and frightening approach and trying to steer away from potentially offending anyone. It's about trying to educate people in what may not be perceived as offensive to other people.
Yeah, because they said they may reject people if some costumes are too offensive.
Yeah.
How is that decided? Because it's quite a subjective.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm not too sure whether that is going to be the case because you can't really train door staff in that. As you say, it's incredibly subjective and you're putting a lot of political responsibility on them. So I doubt at any point anyone's going to be turned away from the Sugar House.
Oh, that's
We spoke to Anna Lee briefly yesterday before she headed off to a conference, and Anna was saying there's no specific policy that deals with cultural appropriation and those sort of issues. It's covered under sort of racism and other policies, but do you think a policy that specifically covers it would be helpful?
I think it would be, yeah, because it's quite a difficult debate that we're having, and we all come from different backgrounds. Like, I'm an English literature graduate, so I'm quite well versed in it and I find it very interesting. But it's about how we define that term and then establishing a framework and how we're going to operate with that, because, like you were saying before, it's all incredibly subjective. It's open to a lot of different meanings.
So, when we first heard of this debate last week when there was a BuzzFeed video that popped up that I think started a lot of it with Native Americans trying on American Indian costumes that were A, rubbish and B, very offensive. And when I spoke to you then and you said you would be going out and sort of doing some consultation, what have you heard from people when you've been talking about this? How far do you think people want Lucy to go?
As I said, it is quite a difficult one, because especially with the Native American dress, it is very, it's groups with protected characteristics, so there's a lot of responsibility on our end to go and consult with those groups with those characteristics and see what comes back for us. In terms of the event that we're talking about with the Day of the Dead, that's a kind of North American Mexican kind of thing with its roots in Aztec and Catholicism culture. Like, it all goes back very, very far. That's where I think the policy would come in, because when you get in a lot of different and diverse feedback, it's kind of difficult to draw it back into one coherent thing.
And this Day of the Dead idea, this wasn't actually a LUSU idea, was it? This came from NUS, of all places. Yeah. Do you want to explain how that sort of came down to LUSU and what you've said?
Yeah, so the NUS, like us, they've got their commercial arm. Like, we've got the Sugar House and they've got their various other commercial enterprises. And they've got a sponsorship from Cubanisto. It's like a rum-flavoured beer, and that's kind of themed around the Day of the Dead with the whole Sugar Skull thing. So the unions that are in the consortium with the NUS got sent a lot of promotional merchandise, and off the back of that we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of theme an event around it. And various other unions around the country have done the same thing. And I think we were one of the first unions to flag it to the NUS that it may be cultural appropriation. So then they got themselves into a bit of a tiz. So it's been a bit of a minefield, if you will.
And finally, before we move on, have you got any sort of tips for people who are organising socials or people who are concerned about costumes? Just a couple of tips about how to avoid any issues.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're organising something like that as a society or a JCR, it's always a lot easier. If you're unsure, just ask. Because there's no such thing as a stupid question when it comes down to something like this, because as we said, it's quite a politically heated and charged debate. So it's always a lot easier to just ask. And if it was me personally, I don't particularly enjoy Halloween too much. So if you're concerned that your costume's not appropriate, just don't bother.
Thanks for clearing that up for us. We're now going to move on to the BDS referendum.
Cool.
You're the lead officer on this.
I am.
Do you want to explain how this has come about and what progress you've made so far?
Yeah, sure. So the last officer team, it was in the last councillor term, as I'm sure a few people might be aware. And a policy was passed that we hold this referendum in week 8 of this term. So we've taken that on, and like the Halloween, this is a very difficult topic to navigate. But being the lead officer on it, it's more about mapping out the processes and how we go about informing the students of that vote and how we go around framing the question. So that's basically what I've been doing with the help of Election Subcom. We write the question and frame it as a yes or no, either way. Putting a call out to the various campaign teams, then the students self-generate it. So it's going to be a very student-led debate and facilitated by us.
What will be the outcome of a vote in favour of a boycott?
Yeah, so the policy mandates us to run on the national BDS list, and that's available online if anyone wants to go and look at that. But it actually doesn't specify that some of the big names we've been hearing about, like Coca-Cola, they're not currently on that list. So what we're doing...
Can you give us a couple of examples of companies you might have heard of that are?
G4S are a company that we're currently affiliated with, and HP, Hewlett-Packard. So we're currently in the process of mapping out the financial impact of the union if it does come back as a yes vote, and identifying alternative companies that we could use. and those reports will be back in the next couple of weeks.
Can this affect what the university does? And do you think that can we pressure the university, or do you think they will just keep their existing contracts?
Yeah. Well, that's in the policy. Regardless of whether it comes back as a yes or a no vote, we still need to lobby the university to divest from certain companies that are concerned in this debate. So we still need to keep pushing the university, regardless of whether it comes back as a yes or a no.
Well, thanks for explaining that one to us. Do you know when the referendum is going to be? Any timeframes available yet?
Yeah, the referendum itself will be in week 8, so it'll be tying in with the JCR and CCO elections. So it should be quite a high turnout. The question at the very latest will be framed by week 7, and we're putting a call out for the campaign teams to be generated next week.
Well, we look forward to watching that develop. Now, we do have the latest issue of Scan in here. Siri, is there anything you've been looking at in here that you've seen?
Well, we spoke a bit about the new library that's opened up last week, and that's still really popular with the students, and it's encouraging more and more people to go there.
Can I actually do some work for a change?
There is a great picture of you in here, Chris.
I thought this one might
wow.
Yes.
Oh,
this is on answers from Alex Square, and they were the 3 questions in this week's one were: what do you think of the new library? What do you think about the new gender-neutral toilets in Sugar House? And what are your views on the books funding changes? A couple of these issues are relevant to you.
Go for it.
Have you had a chance to flick through any of these?
I read that one yesterday just so I could see the picture of your beautiful face smiling back at me.
My massively receding hairline. What did you think of the answers?
I thought it was really good. There's a nice little diverse range of opinion there, and I think that's something that Scan are really starting to nail about getting a lot of different opinions in there and informing quite a nice little debate. It's good to see a lot of variety in the answers.
We did actually hear from Annalie yesterday that she had an email from a student. We think it might be a hoax, basically, about the gender-neutral toilets. Has she told you about this?
No, she hasn't.
It is basically an email from a student saying, thank you for providing me with somewhere to have sex in the Sugar House.
Oh, yeah.
There was a bit of a hoax. It's not exactly the response we were hoping for.
No, definitely not, no.
But being a diligence officer as she is, she responded with raising all of the points and showing the other benefits for this. So it's interesting to see the range of responses we've had from students there. There were people in that article saying everything from it's a great idea to it's an absolute waste of money, and I presume you expected that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
All the things that we have in here, in the Spotlight section, we have some live music acts. Have you seen many live music acts on campus this term?
No, I haven't. No, I'm really big into my live music, and when I go home, I do go a lot around. We call it the toilet circuit, because they're always in quite rubbish bars and pubs. But I've never managed to get involved in Lancaster to my own detriment, I think.
Have you seen any of many bands on campus yet, Siri?
I've not, unfortunately, no.
I caught a couple at Pendle Live the other week. I saw a couple, and I saw a couple in County as well. Live at the Oak, 2 of the bands featured in the Spotlight section. One is The Calls and the other is Good Foxy, are both playing live at the Oak on the 29th for The Calls and the 4th of November for Good Foxy. And Katie Louise Walker is also reviewed in there. She had an album out recently. She was on a year out last year and she's now back on campus, so it's great to see acts like that featuring. Just whilst we stay on the culture section, Spectre, have you seen it?
I haven't, no.
Have you seen it?
I'm going to see it, today.
Today?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Wow.
Well, for next week. I've just had our producer shouting down my headset that it's absolutely amazing. He saw it last night and quite frankly has not shut up about it since. So that looks like it's going to be a really good film. We have actually got a new film section in one of our shows. Nice. We've got a new pop culture show coming up with fashion, music, film. And they are going to be doing reviews. I suspect Spectre will be featuring in the first episode. But talking of fashion, there's an interesting little comment you told us a minute ago, isn't there, Tom?
Yeah, there is.
About your jumper. Do you want to say where you got that from?
Yeah, I got it from the charity shop on campus this morning. I went on a night out last night, wasn't feeling too fresh, needed to get myself some new clothes. Only £3, and looking at it back on the camera, I'm quite pleasantly pleased.
Well, that's great to hear, because we do, again, I said we have a new pop culture show. 2 of the challenges in there are based on charity shops. And in Freshers TV tomorrow night, we have Imogen and Christine, who are hosting the fashion section, coming on and doing a charity shop challenge where they'll have one of them will have bought clothes for the other from a charity shop, and I suspect they're going to get something for me as well. So I'm hoping we get something that suits me as well as that does. But
thank you.
I think I'll be extremely lucky if that is the case. So that's about it from this episode of Scan.
So thank you for joining us, Tom. That's all we have time for today, but here is a quick look at what's coming up on campus this week.
If you fancy more live music, maybe some of the acts we spoke about, Pendle Live is on tomorrow evening.
Halloween karaoke is taking place in County as well on Thursday from 7:30.
And Sigala is playing Sugar House on Friday night. Recently achieved #1 in the UK charts with Easy Love. Have you heard anything about the preparation for this? You excited?
Yeah, I am. I'm really, really excited. The ticket sales are going quite well, and obviously he's quite a big name right now. He was in the live lounge with the one and only Craig David, so it's going to be a night to remember, I'm sure.
Yep, like Tom said, Saturday night is the Day of the Dead event at Sugar House. Make sure to dress up.
But not be offensive.
Yes.
And finally, we have Freshers TV tomorrow night. Freshers TV is a live collaborative broadcast organised by the National Association of Student Television, and this year hosted by Forge TV in Sheffield. We will be doing a live 7-minute section, which Siri is one of the hosts for. You excited?
Yes, definitely.
It's going to be a great show. They have 10 stations taking part and live bands as well. So make sure you tune in from 6 p.m. on freshers.tv for that. And afterwards, at 8 o'clock, we'll be doing a live after show with more of our own live music, some Halloween challenges, pumpkin carving, Halloween film Pictionary. Unless do you want to come down and try Pictionary again with us, Tom?
We both know how that's going to go.
No, and there'll be some, as I said, Imogen and Christine will be doing some fashion challenges with us as well. So make sure you tune in from 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week with more Good Morning Lancaster.